What was happening down there on the river?
Nothing.
Yes, they came out of the port. This was the huge trading port with England. That's why it was built, why it was settled. Okay. So you're going to come over here and pick up a shipload of cotton and take it to Manchester and make fabric out of it. Okay.
Right.
It's the basic economy that fueled this town, that paid for all this real estate. And so what did the ship bring here? Nothing. What do you think they bring? So they had to bring rocks.
Had to bring rocks.
Which are called ballast stones.
Because a lot of this was sand.
Why is it ballast stones?
It was ballast. It kept the ship from falling over. If the ship's not heavy in the bottom, it won't stand up right.
I've heard of a ballast, but I don't know what a ballast is.
It's in a current ship, it's a tank of water that makes the ship heavy in the bottom.
So ballast is like a rock or a stone.
Yeah, it's weight. Weight. That would, because the ship wouldn't be able to get here without something inside. So they brought stones to weight the ship down, and then they threw the stones out and put the cotton in.
Oh, cool.
And that's why all those stones are down the river. Look at those 3 oak trees. I mean, they just create a little canopy for this street.
Yes, they do.
So beautiful, isn't it? I love the Spanish moss hanging out of the trees.
So right around the corner is a pub called the Crystal Beer Parlor, which we're...
I've heard of it. I read about it.
Which we would walk down for Friday night. It's a neighborhood pub that's been there for... We have 23 of these.
23 squares?
Yeah, just like this. And that originally they were common area for either the militia or for a market. You know, you had to have a common
Area.
You know, Boston has the Boston Common. So the squares are the common space. The same pattern kept going.
So, like each square, it has all the residential around that square.
It has the same. It has the same. So on each square, so you can see this is a big lot right here, and there's a big lot right here, and then there's 2 big lots over on the other side. So these were trust lots. So you have these 4 bigger. Sometimes they're churches and things like that, and then going on both sides, you have all the row houses. So that's this. So if we walk, so Bull Street is that way. If we walk straight through, we're going to get to another square that has exactly the same layout as this square. The big lots, and then I'll have the roads on both sides. Jones Street was where we were a few minutes ago. That's where the kids grew up. But they could come over here on their bike. My son learned to ride his bicycle in one of these squares. So that's a monument to Casimir Pulaski.
Who?
Well, he's a guy who, during the Revolutionary War, he was a Polish general, and the Polish guys knew how to use cavalry, and we didn't. And so he came over to help support the colony in the revolution. Ended up getting shot and died here.
Wow.
But there's a lot of Pulaski name all over the place. We have a fort here called Fort Pulaski, and it's a big deal. If you can prove you're a descendant of his, it's your money. Something to talk about.
Okay.
And it was filmed here. The bridge party was in that house right there. There's a little restaurant that's got a window on the sidewalk, and it was a scene where she saw her husband sitting inside the window with another woman. So this is it's used a lot. All it takes to take something back to the 1800s is you take the cars out, take the parking meters up, throw dirt in the street.
Yes.
And so there's a movie about the Civil War called Glory. There was a black regiment in Boston that fought in the Civil War for the North. And the lieutenant who proved the paper right here in Savannah, and in the Jones Street part of it, the kids didn't want to go to school because all the guys were in uniform on horseback, and,
Oh, yeah.
and
How cool
it was
would that
all
be?
being shot right here. So, it's kind of fun.
This is the Armstrong Kessler House, built in 1919 by George Ferguson Armstrong and designed by world-renowned Beaux-Arts architect Henrik Wallin. The gracious curved portico extending to the right from the front of the mansion is called a hemicycle. It was inspired by the wings on either side of Italian villas and designed by Andrea Palladio. Look at the white brick, and you'll see it appears to be marble. This is because the bricks are actually glazed with a fine crushed marble dust, an extremely rare technique, resulting in added depth and a rich, luminous expression. Crafted of solid iron with gilded foliage details, the iconic fence and grand gates were completed in 1918 and extend over 200 feet around the corner of Bull and Gaston Streets. The finials on top of each post are elaborately decorative. Legend has it that the fence and gates were inspired by those at Buckingham Palace.
See that little thing on the top there? For air conditioning. We're talking, these houses were all built before air conditioning, right?
Right.
Here he's pointing out the cupola.
But before electricity, there was at least gas. And so you could have little gas jets up there that would heat the air and make the air rise. So you could create a breeze through the house by letting the hot air out through a little...
Out that
Wow.
Forsyth Park occupies 30 acres in the historic district of Savannah. The fountain was added in 1858 and is reminiscent of fountains in the Place de la Concorde in Paris and in Cuzco, Peru. At this time, Parisian urban planning was centered on the development of residential neighborhoods radiating out from a central green space. I was fascinated by the sparkling water looking like diamonds. Standing at the south end of Forsyth Park, the hiker is a statue created by Theo Alice Ruggles Kitson. It commemorates the American soldiers who fought in the Spanish-American War, the Boxer Rebellion, and the Philippine-American War. For just a little history, Chippewa Square is one of the most famous squares because of the movie Forrest Gump. It's the exact spot where the bench was located while Forrest talked to anyone that would listen while waiting for the bus. It was here, of course, where the "Life is like a box of chocolates" line became famous. And here you're just seeing some of the beautiful and unusual architecture in Savannah. Julia Roberts stood in this iconic red telephone booth, which still remains on the corner next to Sixpence Pub today. Wright Square, laid out in 1733, is one of the oldest of the city squares. The Paris Market Savannah is a cheerful cafe that serves coffee, espresso drinks, tea, wine, and champagne, as well as fresh baked pastries and house-made sandwiches. I thought this was really funny, right? It was recently named the most beautiful coffee shop in Georgia. The owner modeled the store after one of her favorite spots in Paris's Six Arrondissement. And these are photos taken in the Savannah Bee Company store. Nancy and I did a mead tasting, and we also did a honey tasting. They were all excellent. Well, we've made it back down to the Riverwalk another night because it's so beautiful. It was really dark the first night, so we actually wanted to go back down and take another look while we had more daylight. After our walk, we decided to go to the Pink House for dinner. They have a tavern underneath with a piano player, and they actually put us inside of the bank vault. This is the view from inside the bank vault. After dinner, we decided to try a chocolatini recommended by a friend who lived in Savannah for a couple of years. This was the walk to the store where we bought the chocolatini. Here we are with them, and man, they were delicious. And Nancy's having fun with the bird's cookie jar. And I had to get in on the fun too.